Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So for this video, I will be doing a book review for Rose Matter by Stephen King. And this was our March pick for the Stephen King Book Club, which is run by myself and Ian from Ian the Reader. This was the book we chose for the month of March. So previous months, we did January, Different Seasons, which was great. Last month in February, we did From a Buick 8, which was not so great. And then this month, what did I think of my reread of Rose Matter? Well, pretty much like the first time I read it. I loved the first half and then was severely disappointed by the second half. And I was very much interested to get my opinion the second time around because I've heard from some people that when they go back to reread this book, they appreciate it a bit more than the first time they read it. And I was hoping, kind of expecting to have that same like revised feeling. But for me, I pretty much felt the exact same that I did the first time I read this, where I really enjoyed the first half and then the second half, not so much. So kind of like when a parent like disciplines, like a good kid, but like they do something stupid, they kind of say, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. So I'm not really mad about this book, but it's one of Stephen King's most disappointing books because this book could have been really, really good. But it's just not, at least in my opinion. So basically for this review, I'm not going to go into full spoilers, but I will be talking about this book and kind of general points of this book, like kind of what happens, and then it's not like major spoilers, but I guess kind of a minor spoiler warning, especially for like the first half of this book. I will kind of touch on some plot points, some basic stuff that happens in this book. So if you don't want to be spoiled for anything, you can kind of click off now and just know my general feeling of this book is that it's like the first half is great, the second half is bad. That's kind of my opinion, and I do think this is a 3-star book. I know a lot of people out there love this book and a lot of people out there hate this book. For me, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. It's okay. First half is great, second half is bad. That's kind of my opinion. But for this review, I'm going to go into a bit more detail about what this book is about, why I love the first half, and then why I don't love the second half. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first off, what is this book even about? Rose Matter. So for Rose Matter, we're following a woman character named Rose Daniels. And right off the bat, first chapter, or it might even be a prologue, like you get a glimpse into what this woman's life is like. And it's very bleak and very disturbing. One of the more disturbing scenes Stephen King has ever written, in my opinion. Very gruesome. And basically, what happens in that first chapter is what prompts Rose to kind of escape from this hell that she's living in. She's married to a cop named Norman, and he's very abusive to her in various ways, which I won't touch on, but very abusive relationship. And one day she kind of sees like a drop of blood on one of her bed sheets, and she decides like, if I stay any longer, Norman is going to kill me, so I need to escape. And that's basically what the first part of this book is about. Like, she decides to leave the city, leave the state, and take some of the money out of his bank account. Not all of it. She could have done that, but she takes some of it, and she decides to flee and try to make a life for herself. And that's kind of what she does. And kind of like the first half of this book is like, we get that chapters of like her deciding to do that, leaving the city and kind of forming her new life on her own. And then kind of the second parts of this book is Norman, the abusive cop husband. We get his perspective of him trying to figure out where she went and the horrible things he has to do to try to figure that out, and just getting into this sick and twisted mind of this character. Really despicable. One of those characters you just want to jump in and just punch in the face like, ah, very, very annoying character. But yeah, that's kind of the back and forth of like she's figuring out her own life and he is trying to hunt her down. That the first half of the novel, that's pretty much what it is, and it's great. Like that first half is like 4.5, 5-star material because the writing is really good, the characters are really good. It's very disturbing. Some of the most disturbing stuff King has ever written, in my opinion, and I love King's like realistic horror, and this is a very like it's very disturbing, but it's also sadly probably a realistic portrayal of what domestic abuse actually looks like. It goes to extreme levels, but I love when Stephen King is able to write realistic horror. He's done that very well with stuff like Misery and Cujo and Gerald's Game. Like those kind of things, those premises could actually happen. And sadly enough, domestic abuse is very real. And so like the first half of this book is very grounded in reality horror, which I think Stephen King does very well. The problem arises when Stephen King decides to shoehorn in this very weird supernatural element. And so, kind of a minor spoiler warning, but or one of the things that she does, like once she's kind of established her life and she's getting back on her own feet by herself, Norman's out of her life, although he's trying to figure out where she is, but one of the things that she does is she pawns off her wedding ring, and in exchange for that, she gets this very weird painting that just calls to her. It's this weird painting, and she's like, I don't know what it is, but I have to have this painting. The supernatural element kind of comes into play with that, and I'm not going to go into full detail about what happens with it, but all of the stuff that has to do with that, I think is just bad. Like, I don't care about any of that. I just wish that Stephen King would have stuck with this premise and just told a really realistic portrayal of domestic abuse. And like I mentioned, the first half is basically that. Like, she's leaving, he's coming after her. This book could have been really good. And like I mentioned, I'm kind of like the very disappointed parent. I'm like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed, Stephen King, because you were on the right path and then you just kind of messed it all up. But so that's kind of my feeling about this book. The first half is excellent, but then the second half deals a lot with this painting and just the weird supernatural stuff that happens. And also there's some kind of weird minor, well, not minor, but like there's Dark Tower references in here and just Dark Tower connections. Like this is definitely a connect to the Dark Tower. Which, did he have to include that in a realistic domestic abuse portrayal novel? Probably not, and I don't think he really should have. I think he should have just stuck with the premise. He does this a lot where, like, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, like The Dead Zone, one of my all-time favorite novels, famously kind of starts out with kind of a more of like a murder mystery kind of element and then kind of shifts into more political realm. For me, it worked really well. But other books, you know, like 11/22/63, that kind of changes course midway through, where the first part, you're talking about stopping the JFK assassination, and then kind of midway through, like, oh, we're just going to stay here and have a wonderful time with my romance and all that stuff. I'm like, get to the point or stick with it. It's kind of the same thing with this. Just everything to do with the supernatural element, I just don't enjoy. And kind of, I've had complaints like this, similar complaint like this with other books in Stephen King's catalog. More famously, well, not more famously, but like also in the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, because those first two books are very grounded in reality. They're basically just thriller books, like mystery books, and they're very good. Well, the second book is very good. The first book is pretty good. But then you get the third book, End of Watch, which just has this really dumb supernatural element that just doesn't fit with the tone and the feel of the first two books. It's just stupid. Like, if you're going to introduce a supernatural element, at least make it compelling. But in this one and in End of Watch, they're just not good. Like, it's like I said, it's very disappointing. It's very disappointing. And like I said, there are great things about this book. Very suspenseful, very tense at times. Great character work, great writing as always. But just the shift, the hard left turn we take with the supernatural element, I've never enjoyed it. The first time I read it, I didn't enjoy it. And then the second time, kind of my expectation going in was like, okay, I know what to expect now. Maybe I'll kind of just enjoy it for what it is. But I still didn't enjoy it. And I know a lot of people agree with me on this. We had a few people who have read it for the Stephen King Book Club and kind of have a similar opinion where it just doesn't fit. Like, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me personally. I know for some people, they still really enjoy this book and they think it's an underrated gem in Stephen King's bibliography, but I disagree very much so. And this is one of his most disappointing books because it had so much potential. That's what's frustrating me, because this first half had so much potential. If he would have just stuck with that, would have been really great, but then we get all this weird supernatural crap that I just don't care for. So, in a nutshell, this book had a lot of potential. First half was great. Second half and the supernatural element just kind of sucks. All right, so that is my little short review here for a very disappointing Stephen King novel. And it's really hard to rate, but I do settle on 3 stars just because it has such a strong opening, but then just takes a hard left turn and it's just not great after that. Yeah, it's very disappointing. Like, I'm not mad about this book. Like, I don't give it like 2 stars. It's not one of Stephen King's worst books by any means, but it is very disappointing. So I give this book 3 stars, but what I want to know is what you guys think. Have you read Rose Madder? Do you agree or disagree with anything that I've said here? What is your rating for Rose Madder? Did anything I say convince you to read or not read this book? Leave all those lovely comments down in the comments below and we'll chat about it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and continue to subscribe to the channel here. And thank you guys so much for watching all my dumb, silly videos. And what else do I got? Bookish Drummer Discord down below, where we're going to keep continuing the Stephen King Book Club all year long. Next month in April, we're going to be doing The Running Man, which that's going to be a lot of fun. That is a very good Richard Bachman book. So either come join us and read that for the first time, or it's a really fun reread if you want to do that. It's a very short book. And also in the Bookish Drummer Discord, we've got the Battle of the Bands readathon, number 5. We're on number 5 now. So we're going to be doing that in April, taking place exclusively on the Bookish Drummer Discord. So go sign up for that if you're interested. I've also got my Patreon link down below if you want to go support me there for as little as $1 a month. And I have my Amazon wish list if you'd like to buy me a book. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a fantastic day.